Today, we're diving into a story that sounds like it's straight out of a Tom Clancy novel, but I assure you, it's all too real. Picture this: you're a Hezbollah operative, feeling pretty smug about your low tech communication strategy. You've ditched those pesky smartphones that can be tracked and hacked, opting instead for good old fashioned pagers and walkie talkies. What could possibly go wrong? Well, it turns out quite a lot. In a twist that would make Odysseus proud, Israel pulled off a modern day Trojan horse attack. But instead of soldiers hiding in wooden horses, we're talking about explosives tucked away inside of pagers and walkie talkies. Talk about your pager blowing up. If you're a millennial, you might be asking, what the hell is a pager? All right, listen up, you young whippersnappers. I'm old enough to have owned a pager during high school. Let me tell you all about this brick of a device we used to carry around back in the day called a pager. Now, I know you're probably thinking, is a pager like an ancient iPad or something? Oh, you sweet summer child. Picture this: it's the early 90s. Nirvana is on the radio, everyone's wearing flannel, and I'm strutting down the hallways of my high school with a small plastic brick clipped to my ultra cool Z Cavaricci pants. That kind of looked like MC Hammer pants. This extremely dated high-tech marvel would vibrate or beep when someone was trying to call you, and get this, it would show you a phone number. Ooh, not a text, not an email, just a mysterious string of digits. And at that time, you memorized all your friends' phone numbers and knew exactly who an incoming call was coming from. But also, you could come up with your own secret codes with your friends that meant certain things when you received them. It was like a tiny math problem every time someone wanted to talk to you. Now, here's where it gets really wild. If you wanted to actually communicate with that person who paged you, you had to find a payphone. That's right, a corded phone that you had to pay to use, that was bolted to the wall or stuffed in a booth. A phone booth is where Clark Kent changed into Superman in older movies and TV shows. It's like a smartphone, except it's not smart and it's not yours. So there I'd be, desperately searching for a quarter in my giant parachute pants pockets like it was buried treasure, just so I can call back my buddy who wanted to know if I taped the latest episode of MTV for him on VHS, when they actually still played music videos. And let me tell you, nothing made you feel cooler than when your pager went off during class. It was like, oh, excuse me, I'm clearly very important and in high demand. Meanwhile, it was probably just your mom reminding you to buy milk on the way home. Now, I know what you're thinking. Okay, boomer, you had a pretty rough going up. And I would say we did, and all that suffering built character, which is what our parents said to us when we were growing up, and what their parents said to them when TVs were just coming out. So next time you're instantly video chatting with your friend halfway across the world on your smartphone, just remember, some of us had to master the art of speed dialing on a grimy payphone just to ask what's up. Appreciate your technology, kids, and get off my lawn. Now, before you start eyeing your vintage Motorola suspiciously, let's break down what happened. Thousands of these devices, distributed to Hezbollah members, suddenly decided to go boom. And we're not talking about a gentle vibrate here. We're talking full-on explosions that left at least 37 people dead and injured over 2,000 others, including some children caught up as collateral damage in the attack. Now, I'm not here to argue for or against the attack, and I'm not taking sides. We're just here to pick up the pieces and deal with the fallout. So you might be thinking, that's terrible, but what does that have to do with me and my perfectly harmless smartwatch? Well, tech-savvy friends, this incident has set off alarm bells louder than the morning wake-up call about the vulnerabilities in our global supply chains. I'm your host for Apprentice.io's Industry Insights, Frank Maggiore, and today we're diving into the world of protecting supply chains from the latest explosive threats and how cloud-based manufacturing execution systems, MES, may just be the tool to save humanity, protect the global economy, help to protect you personally, and potentially make the world a safer place. Let's face it, in today's interconnected world, the journey of a single gadget from concept to your pocket is more complicated than explaining blockchain to your grandma. We're talking a globe-trotting adventure that would make Jules Verne jealous. Components might be designed in California, manufactured in Taiwan, assembled in China, and shipped from South Korea, all before landing in your local Best Buy. Now here's where it gets a bit scary. Every step in that journey, every company involved, every subcontractor, and every disgruntled employee represents a potential weak link in that chain. It's like playing a high-stakes game for your device's integrity, and the players are scattered across continents. Imagine if someone with nefarious intentions managed to slip into the supply chain. Suddenly, your innocent-looking fitness tracker could be secretly plotting to reveal your embarrassing dance workout routine to the world. Okay, maybe not that, but you get the idea. This Hezbollah pager incident has got governments and tech companies more paranoid than a squirrel in a nut factory. They're realizing that ensuring the security of these complex supply chains is about as easy as herding cats, blindfolded, in a thunderstorm. So what's the solution? Well, some are suggesting we bring production closer to home, a concept known as reshoring or nearshoring. It's like saying, if you want something done right, do it yourself, but on a national scale. The idea is that the shorter the journey, the fewer opportunities for mischief. But here's the catch. Completely abandoning global trade is about as realistic as me giving up on inventing. It would be expensive, disruptive, and let's face it, in today's world, going it alone is so last century. Instead, what we're likely to see is a reconfiguration of globalization. Companies and countries are scrambling to secure the safest and most reliable and trusted partners from friendly countries that are more likely to cooperate and share regulatory frameworks. The US government, for instance, is throwing money at companies faster than a Vegas high roller, encouraging them to build things like computer chip plants and electric vehicle factories on home soil. It's like a giant Made in America sticker, but with billions of dollars attached. But let's not kid ourselves. Nation-states have been interfering in each other's supply chains for decades, primarily for espionage operations. The US includes some fake parts designed to fail for use with Russian fighter jets. China adds some malware to chips being used for telecommunications equipment in the US, and so on. Intelligence agencies have been conducting espionage using tactics like this all the time, but most of it is out of the public eye until a FOIA request gets approved or some former spy decides to write a book on some crazy mission after the materials are finally declassified. What makes this Trojan pager attack different is the use of this method for the targeting of a terrorist organization, the scope and scale of the attack, and how much of the attack played out in public. It is also a hardware supply chain attack paired with a digital trigger. Like Stuxnet, the suspected joint US and Israeli malware put onto control systems for uranium enrichment centrifuges operating in Iran for their nuclear weapons program and causing them to spectacularly fail, resulting in the centrifuges exploding. Now that this tactic is released and known to the world, it is a tool open for others to use against us. In the wake of the Lebanon attacks, there's a growing realization that even the most mundane items in our daily lives could potentially be weaponized. It's enough to make you look at your toaster with suspicion. So the next time you pick up your phone, take a moment to appreciate the incredible journey it's been on, and maybe, just maybe, give it a little X-ray scan just to be safe. Remember, in the world of technology, always expect the unexpected, and maybe keep a bomb squad on speed dial, just in case. Now let's dive deeper into this Pandora's box that Israel cracked open wider than a kid's mouth during a dentist appointment. By pulling off this deadly Trojan pager attack, Israel has essentially published a How to Hack the World for Dummies guide. And let me tell you, there are plenty of dummies out there itching to give it a try. Now, I'm not saying Israeli intelligence services are running Zoom workshops on Supply Chain Attacks 101, but they might as well be, because now that this genie is out of the bottle, you can bet your bottom Bitcoin that every rogue state, terrorist group, and crime syndicate worth their salt is taking notes faster than a court stenographer on espresso. Picture this: North Korea, not content with just hacking Sony over a Seth Rogen movie, decides to get creative. They infiltrate the supply chain for let's say smart fridges. Suddenly, millions of Americans wake up to find their fridges have gone rogue, ordering nothing but kimchi and pictures of Kim Jong-un while playing the North Korean national anthem. It's chaos in the cul-de-sacs. Or how about this scenario? A crime syndicate decides to target the auto industry. They manage to slip some compromised chips into the supply chain. Next thing you know, self-driving cars are driving themselves to chop shops like some twisted version of Christine Meets the Fast and the Furious. And let's not even get started on medical devices. Imagine pacemakers that suddenly decide to play Staying Alive, beeping it at full volume. It's not just a Bee Gees revival, it's a potential catastrophe. Now, I know what you're thinking. You've been watching way too many sci-fi movies. And maybe you're right. Maybe I have binged a bit too much Black Mirror. But here's the thing. Reality has a nasty habit of catching up with and sometimes surpassing our wildest imaginations. Remember when we all laughed at the ideas of computers in our pockets, or cars that drive themselves, or watches that can call the ambulance when you fall? Yet here we are, living in a world that would make the Jetsons look positively Stone Age. Except for the flying cars and the robot maids, of course. The point is, now that this supply chain attack vector has been demonstrated, it's only a matter of time before someone tries to replicate it. And unlike Israel, which had very specific targets in mind, these copycats might not be so discriminating. It's like we suddenly realized that the lock on our front door isn't just pickable, it's practically begging to be open, and we've been handing out copies of the key, no questions asked. So what do we do now? Well, for starters, we can't exactly put this genie back in the bottle. That ship has sailed, that horse is bolted, that cat is out of the bag. Insert your metaphor of choice here. What we need to focus on now is the prevention and mitigation. Prevention is all about making our supply chains more secure than Fort Knox during a lockdown. We're talking rigorous vetting of suppliers, constant monitoring of the production processes, and security checks that would make airport screening look like a casual pat-down. Companies need to start treating their supply chains like a high-stakes game of Jenga. Every piece needs to be carefully examined and placed, because one wrong move and the whole thing comes crashing down. And trust me, when we're talking about critical infrastructure or life-saving medical devices, that's not a game we want to lose. But let's be real for a second. No matter how many precautions we take, there's always going to be risks. That's where mitigation comes in. We need to be prepared for the worst case scenario. It's like having a fire extinguisher in your kitchen. You hope you're never going to need it, but boy are you glad it's there when that romantic dinner flambe goes wrong. This means developing robust systems for detecting compromised products, rapid response plans for when attacks occur, and redundancies that would make a belt and suspenders guy look underprepared. We also need to start thinking about supply chain security as a collective responsibility. It's not just about protecting your own company or country anymore. In our interconnected world, a vulnerability in one place can quickly become everyone's problem. It's united we stand, divided we fall. Except in this case, it's more like united we stand, divided we get hacked, and our toasters turn against us. Education is going to be key here too. And I'm not just talking tech geeks and security experts. Everyone from the CEO to the person on the assembly line needs to understand the potential risks and their role in preventing them. It's like teaching kids about stranger danger, except the stranger could be a seemingly innocent microchip or medication from a shady website ordered to save a few bucks. Now, I know all this sounds daunting. It's enough to make you want to go off-grid and live in a cabin in the woods. But before you start stockpiling canned goods and learning how to start a fire with 2 sticks, remember this. Humanity has faced and overcome countless challenges before. We survived plagues, world wars, and the invention of Crocs. We can handle this too. It's going to take work, innovation, and probably a few mistakes along the way. We're also likely to try sticking our head into the sand until a major incident comes up that scares the public, and then government agencies are going to overreact to it. But that's just how progress happens. But if we play our cards right, this early wake-up call could lead to some positive changes. Maybe we'll see a renaissance in domestic manufacturing. Maybe we'll develop new technologies that make our devices more secure than ever. Maybe we'll finally achieve that holy grail of tech support, devices that actually worked as intended right out of the box. But genies grant wishes, right? So let's wish for and work towards a future where our technology is not just innovative and convenient, but secure and trustworthy too. Because at the end of the day, we don't want to live in a world where we're afraid of our own devices. I mean, I already have trust issues with my printer. I don't need to worry about my coffee maker plotting against me too. So let's roll up our sleeves, put on our thinking caps, and get to work, because the only way to beat a Trojan horse is to be smarter, more vigilant, and more innovative than those who would use it against us. And hey, if all else fails, we can always go back to carrier pigeons. I hear they're very difficult to hack. All right, let's dive into how this pager pandemonium is going to shake up global supply chains more than a bartender making James Bond a martini. First off, traceability is about to become the hottest buzzword since blockchain at a tech conference. We're talking about tracking every component in its bill of materials, or BOM. Get it? Every raw material from its infancy to its final resting place in your shiny new gadget. It's like giving every little piece its own reality show, complete with 24/7 surveillance. Imagine a world where we can trace that tiny chip in your phone back to the silicon it came from, the factory where it was made, the truck that transported it, and every hand it passed through along the way. It's like playing 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon, but with microchips instead of the Footloose star. Now you might be asking, that sounds like a logistical nightmare. And you're not wrong. But here's where our old friend technology comes back to the rescue, riding in on his white horse made of ones and zeros. At the risk of sounding like a teacher who always says their class is the most important subject, MESs play a central role in the manufacturing of all types of products globally. These MES systems are like the ultimate stenographers of the manufacturing world, diligently recording everything that happens from the moment raw materials enter the factory to the second the finished product ships out. They're creating end-to-end audit trails that would make even the most zealous accountant weep with joy. Picture MES as the ultimate helicopter parent, hovering over every aspect of production, recording every little detail. Oh, you moved that widget 2 centimeters to the left? Let me jot that down in my little cloud notebook. It's like having a photographic memory for your entire supply chain. But it's not just about keeping records. These systems are smart. Probably smarter than most of the people I went to school with. They can flag anomalies faster than my mom can spot a new gray hair. Hey, this batch of microchips seems a little off. Maybe we should take a closer look. It's like having supply chain spidey sense. Now here's where things get really interesting. All that focus on security and traceability, it's likely to accelerate a trend that's already been brewing, the great decoupling of global supply chains. You see, for years we've been spreading our supply chains across the globe like a kid with too much pizza dough. A little here, a little there, wherever it's the cheapest. But now we're starting to think maybe that wasn't such a great idea, to have critical components made halfway across the world in countries we're not always on the best terms with. So we're likely to see a shift towards onshoring, bringing production back home faster than you can say, made in America. Countries are making sure domestic companies are sitting pretty with their supply chains close at hand. But let's be real, we can't make everything at home unless we're willing to pay $10,000 for a smartphone and go back to the days where a computer took up an entire room. So instead, we're going to see a trend towards working primarily with close geopolitical allies. It's like forming a clique at high school, but instead of deciding who gets to sit at the lunch table, we're deciding who gets to make our critical technology. Imagine a world where the US, Europe, Japan, South Korea, and a select few others form a sort of supply chain Avengers, working toward keeping the bad guys out of our tech. It's not quite West Side Story, but there might be some snapping involved when they face off against less friendly nations, such as the Jets vs. the Sharks with theater kid fight scenes. The shift is going to have some pretty big ripple effects. Countries that have built their economies on being the world's factory, they might need to start looking for a new gig. It's like telling a kid who's been running a lemonade stand for years that they can only sell to a few houses on one cul-de-sac in the neighborhood now. But it's not all doom and gloom. This could lead to some pretty exciting innovations. Maybe we'll see new manufacturing techniques that make domestic production more competitive. Or perhaps we'll develop new materials that are inherently more secure. Who knows? Maybe we'll finally get those self-repairing phones we've always been dreaming of. And let's not forget about the potential job creation. Bringing manufacturing jobs back home could mean a renaissance for industries that have been in decline for decades. It's like the Industrial Revolution 2.0, but with more robots and fewer child laborers. Of course, all this comes with its own set of challenges. Reshoring isn't as simple as clicking your heels 3 times and saying there's no place like home. It's going to require massive investments in infrastructure, training, and technology. And then there's the question of cost. Are we as consumers willing to pay more for peace of mind that comes with a more secure supply chain? It's like organic produce. We know that it's probably better for us, but that sticker price can be awfully hard to swallow. But here's the thing, when it comes to the security of our technology, can we really afford not to make these changes? It's like choosing between a cheap lock for your front door or a state-of-the-art security system. Sure, the cheap lock is easier on your wallet, but it's not going to do much when the bad guys come a-knocking. In the end, this pager predicament might just be the kick in the pants we needed to rethink how we make, well, everything. It's forcing us to balance efficiency with security, cost with peace of mind. And while it might be a bumpy road ahead, I, for one, am excited to see where it leads. Who knows? Maybe in a few years, Made in America will be more than just a nostalgic slogan. It'll be a mark of security in an increasingly insecure world. All right, let's shift gears and talk about something that's more serious than a heart attack, which ironically is exactly what we're trying to prevent here. We're diving into the world of pharmaceutical and medical device supply chains, where the stakes are higher than a giraffe's neck. Now, I don't want to be an alarmist, but imagine for a second if the bad guys decided to target our medicines and medical devices. We're not talking about your run-of-the-mill movie villain who wants to take over the world. We're talking about real-life baddies who could potentially harm large populations with the flip of a switch or the swap of a component. It's enough to make you want to bubble wrap yourself and never leave the house. That's where this concept of serialization comes in, riding to the rescue like a knight in shining armor, except instead of a sword, it's wielding barcodes and RFID tags. Serialization is about giving each and every product a unique identifier. It's like giving every pill its own social security number. Hello, I'm aspirin 123456789. Pleased to meet you. But it's not just about slapping a barcode on a bottle and calling it a day. Oh no, we're talking about creating a complete manufacturing history and audit trail for each unit. It's like writing a biography of every single pill, patch, or pacemaker. This Prozac was born on a Tuesday, had a brief crisis of identity on Thursday, but pulled itself together by Friday. And who's keeping track of all this information? Enter our friend, the Cloud-Based Manufacturing Execution Systems, MES, which can integrate with an assortment of serialization systems. In the world of pharma and medical devices, these systems are working overtime like a college student during finals week. These MESs can track down everything with the precision of a Swiss watch. They know when each ingredient was added, who added it, what machine processed it, and at what temperature, for how long. You name it, they've got it logged. It's like having a strict librarian keeping tabs on every page of every book in the Library of Congress. But here's where it gets really impressive. These systems aren't just passive record keepers, they're actively monitoring everything in real time, ready to raise the alarm if anything looks even slightly off. It's like having a hypervigilant hall monitor who can spot students without a hall pass from a mile away. Let's say a batch of pills suddenly has a slightly different chemical composition than usual. Maybe it's nothing, maybe it's a deviation, or maybe it's someone trying to slip something nasty into our medicine supply. The MES spots this faster than you can say side effects may include and flags it for further investigation. It's like having a built-in BS detector for your entire manufacturing process. Now you might be thinking, that's all well and good, but we're talking about millions upon millions of products here. How can anyone keep track of all that data? And you'd be right to ask. We're talking about a volume of information that would make the Library of Alexandria look like an airport paperback stand. This is where our silicon-brained friends, automation, and AI come to play. These systems can sift through mountains of data faster than you can pop an aspirin for that headache you're getting just thinking about it. They're looking for patterns, anomalies, and anything that doesn't quite fit. It's like having an army of super smart, never sleeping detectives constantly on the case. Imagine an AI that can spot a potential issue in a batch of pills faster than you can Google your symptoms and convince yourself you have a new rare tropical disease. These systems can analyze production data, supply chain information, and even external factors like weather patterns or geopolitical events that might affect the supply chain. It's like having a crystal ball, but instead of vague predictions, it's giving you cold, hard data. But let's get real for a second. All this technology is great, but it's not foolproof. We're in an arms race here, folks. As our defenses get smarter, so do the bad guys. It's like a high-stakes game of chess, except instead of capturing a king, we're trying to keep our medicine safe and effective. This is why we need to stay vigilant and keep innovating. We can't just set up these systems and dust off our hands thinking the job is done. We need to constantly update, improve, and adapt. It's like software updates for your phone, but instead of getting new emojis, we're getting better protection for our life-saving drugs and devices. And let's not forget about the human element in all this. While AI and automation are fantastic tools, we still need smart, trained professionals to interpret data and make critical decisions. It's like having a high-tech car. It's great at alerting you of problems, but you still need a skilled mechanic to fix them. We also need to think about the ethical implications of all this tracking and data collection. Yes, it's crucial for safety, but we also need to ensure we're protecting patient privacy as well. It's a delicate balance, like trying to do yoga on a tightrope. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. This all sounds great, but it must cost a fortune. And you're not wrong. Implementing these systems is not cheap. It's like buying a Rolls Royce when you're used to a bicycle. But here's the thing. Can we really put a price on the safety of our medicines and medical devices? Think about it this way. What's the cost of not doing this? What's the potential human and economic toll if contaminated drugs make it to market, or if compromised medical devices are implanted into patients? Suddenly that Rolls Royce is looking like a bargain, isn't it? In addition, to gain the benefits of digitalization, millions of businesses will need to get off paper-based manufacturing batch records. This will allow for better tracking and surveillance of events in real time, instead of auditing the records and not having any visibility into their process. Regulatory agencies may soon insist this is the only way to do business, to prevent separate sets of books from being kept, to prevent the ability of manual change of records without audit trails of the changes, and the ability to perform thorough checks in real time. If a major incident does occur, don't be surprised if one of the reactions is by forcing all companies to adopt these cloud-based MES systems as industry standards. It is better to get ahead of the curve and invest in deploying these systems now, instead of waiting until they are forced upon you, where adoption needs to occur faster and at significantly greater expenses. Don't be surprised in the future if this information is kept on blockchain that regulatory agencies have access to, where there is a more global approach on looking for anomalies in the system and preventing potential issues before they have the ability to do any real harm. But it's not just about defense. These cloud-based MES systems also offer huge potential benefits in terms of efficiency and quality control. When you have this level of visibility in your manufacturing process, you can optimize it in ways that were never before possible. It's like having X-ray vision into your entire operation. Imagine being able to predict and prevent shortages before they happen, or being able to recall specific batches of a product with surgical precision instead of broad, costly recalls. It's like having a superpower, but instead of flying or super strength, you have super supply chain management. Okay, maybe that's not as cool, but arguably, it's infinitely more useful in the real world. And let's not forget about the potential for personalized medicine. With this level of granular control and tracking, we're moving closer to a world where drugs can be tailored to the individual patients. It's like having a bespoke suit, but for your insides. Implementing these MES systems in the past used to be a massive undertaking. They are now significantly easier to deploy, train, and start gaining benefits from. And the alternative is much worse. Leaving our medical supply chains vulnerable is simply not an option. So what's the takeaway here? Well, for one, maybe don't buy your prescription drugs from an online seller of fish antibiotics and horse dewormer. But more importantly, it's a reminder that in our interconnected world, security isn't just about locks and firewalls anymore. It's about understanding and securing every step of the journey our medicine and medical devices take before they reach us. It's a big challenge, but hey, we're the species that figured out how to put a man on the moon and created a device that can order a pizza, play music, and give us directions all at the same time. I'm pretty confident we can handle this too. So the next time you pop a pill or use a medical device, take a moment to appreciate the incredible journey it's been on and the army of humans and machines working behind the scenes to keep you safe. It's not just a pill, it's a tiny miracle of modern logistics and security, and that, my friends, is a tough act to swallow. I know we've been doom and glooming it up like we're auditioning for a disaster movie, but let's look on the bright side for a moment. Yes, we're facing a challenge bigger than trying to fold a fitted sheet, but hey, we're humans. We eat impossible for breakfast. First off, let's remember that we've managed plenty of risks before. We figured out how to fly giant metal tubes through the air without them constantly falling out of the sky. We learned how to safely handle radioactive materials without turning into the Hulk. Heck, we even managed to make the McRib a sometimes food instead of an all-the-time food. If we can do all that, we can handle this supply chain security thing. Now, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. This is going to require some serious investment and changes. It's like renovating your house while you're still living in it. There's going to be dust, noise, and probably a few nights sleeping on the couch. But in the end, you'll have a more secure and more efficient home, or in this case, a more robust supply chain. One silver lining in all this, it's finally giving us a kick in the pants that we need to move off those ancient paper systems. You know, the ones held together by duct tape, hope, and that one guy in accounting who still remembers how to use a fax machine. We're talking about a mass migration to more secure cloud-based solutions. It's like moving from the Stone Age to the Space Age, but for logistics. Sure, there may be some short-term pain, but AI tools are making the onboarding, procedure importation, and migration processes even easier and less painful than your last dentist visit. There will be disruptions. Expect to hear supply chain issues more often than in these uncertain times during the pandemic. But in the long run, we're setting ourselves up for a supply chain revolution that would make Henry Ford jealous. Let's talk about some of the cool tech that's going to make this happen. First up, serialization. We're not just talking about slapping a barcode on a box anymore. We're entering a world where every individual component has its own unique identifier. It's like giving every grain of sand on the beach its own name and social security number. Then we've got IoT sensors. These little gadgets are going to be everywhere, monitoring everything from temperature to vibration to location. It's like having a helicopter parent for every product in the supply chain. Oh, you've moved 3 inches to the left? Let me just update your file. And let's not forget about everyone's favorite buzzword, blockchain. Now, I know some of you are rolling your eyes harder than a teenager being asked to do chores, but hear me out. Blockchain could revolutionize traceability in supply chains. It's a digital ledger that the world's best hackers would have a harder time altering than my mother has trying to use a 3D printer. But wait, there's more. I feel like I'm in an infomercial, but I promise I'm not trying to sell you on Ginsu knives. We've got AI and machine learning ready to optimize these supply chains in ways we can't even imagine yet. It's like having a super smart intern who never sleeps, never complains, and can process data faster than you can say supply chain disruptions averted. Digital twins are another cool concept. Imagine having a virtual replica of your entire supply chain that you can test and tweak without messing with the real thing. It's like The Sims, but for logistics nerds. And don't even get me started on the potential of advanced analytics. We're talking about predicting problems before they happen, optimizing routes in real time, and precision management of inventory. It's like having a crystal ball, but one that actually works and is backed by cold, hard data. Now here's the really exciting part. All these changes we're making to protect against threats, they're going to have some pretty sweet side benefits. For instance, handling recalls is going to be significantly easier. When you know where every individual product is shipped to, instead of recalling every product ever made, companies will be able to pinpoint exactly which batches might be affected. It's like using a scalpel instead of a sledgehammer. Quality issues, we'll catch those faster as well. With all this monitoring and data analysis, problems will have nowhere to hide. It's like playing a game of whack-a-mole, but the moles are quality issues and our hammer is powered by AI. And let's talk about resilience. These new supply chains are going to be tougher than a $2 steak. Natural disasters, geopolitical upheavals, zombie apocalypses, well, maybe not the last one, but you get the idea. We're building supply chains that can take a licking and keep on ticking. So yes, we're facing a challenge. Yes, it's going to be tough, but let's not forget, We're the species that went from horse-drawn carriages to self-driving cars in just over a century. We put a man on the moon using less computing power than you have in your graphing calculator. We invented pizza delivery, for crying out loud. If we can do all that, we can certainly figure out how to make our supply chains more secure. In the end, this whole Trojan pager chapter might just be the catalyst we needed to drag our supply chains kicking and screaming into the 21st century. In this brave new world of global supply chains, it's a bit like the Wild West, but instead of cowboys and bandits, you've got hackers and rogue states. And our job is to keep that wagon train of commerce rolling come hell or high water. Let's face it, this is our new reality. Bad actors are out there, and they're more persistent than a telemarketer trying to reach you about your car's extended warranty. They'll look for a crack, any weaknesses in our supply chain to exploit. But here's the thing, we're not going into this fight unarmed. We've got a whole arsenal of tools and technologies to counter these threats. It's like we're the Avengers of supply chain security, each with our own superpowers. And trust me, these powers are a lot cooler than being able to turn green when you're angry. First up, we've got the cloud. No, not the fluffy thing in the sky. I'm talking about cloud computing. It's like having a super secure, infinitely scalable brain for your entire supply chain. And the best part, you can access it from anywhere. It's like having your cake and eating it too, but the cake is data and you're eating it with the fork of efficiency. Then we've got automation. It's like having an army of tireless workers who never need a coffee break and can spot a problem faster than you can say supply chain disruption. They're not coming for our jobs. They're here to make our jobs easier and our supply chain safer. And let's not forget about analysis. With the power of big data and AI, we can sift through mountains of information faster than a squirrel through a bird feeder. We can spot patterns, predict problems, and optimize supply chains in ways we never thought possible. It's like having a crystal ball, but one that's powered by algorithms instead of mystical energy. Authentication is our next superhero. In a world where counterfeits are more common than original ideas in Hollywood, being able to verify the authenticity of every component is crucial. It's like having a bouncer for your supply chain, checking the ID of every part that tries to get in. And last but not least, we need to work with trusted partners. In the interconnected web of global trade, your supply chain is only as strong as its weakest link, so choose your partners carefully. It's like picking your teammates for a high-stakes game of dodgeball. You want the best on your side. Now, I'm not going to lie to you, this isn't going to be a walk in the park. It's going to be challenging, there will be bumps in the road, unexpected twists, and probably a few moments where we'll all be reaching for the antacids. But you know what? That's okay. It's like going through a tough workout. It hurts at the time, but we all come out stronger on the other side. So here we are at the end of our supply chain saga. We've laughed, we cried, okay, maybe not cried, but we definitely been a bit nervous, and we learned a lot. But before we wrap up, I want to leave you with a message of hope. Yes, the challenges we face are daunting. Yes, the bad guys are clever and persistent. But you know what? So are we. We're the species that went from cave paintings to virtual reality, from smoke signals to instant global communication. We faced challenges before, and we've always come out on top. This isn't just about protecting our stuff. It's about safeguarding the intricate web of connections that make our modern world possible. It's about ensuring that medicines reach patients who need them, that the food on our tables is safe to eat, that our gadgets in our pockets work as they should. So let's embrace this challenge. Let's innovate, collaborate, and create supply chains so secure they made Fort Knox look like a piggy bank. Because when we do, we're not just protecting products, we're protecting progress itself. Remember, in the grand tapestry of human history, this is just another chapter, and I, for one, can't wait to see how we rise to the occasion and write it. So here's to the future supply chains. May they be secure, efficient, and maybe, just maybe, a little bit exciting. Remember, in the world of supply chains, the only constant is change, so let's make sure we're changing it for the better. Keep your sensors calibrated, your data encrypted, and your sense of humor intact. Stay safe, stay secure, and keep those supply chains humming. In an industry where precision and compliance are paramount, Apprentice's Tempo platform offers a cutting-edge manufacturing execution system solution. It's cloud-based, mobile-first, operator-centric, with the most intuitive UI in the industry, making it perfect for today's dynamic pharmaceutical manufacturing environments and for the production of the world's most complex drug products. Whether you're working on groundbreaking cell and gene therapies, biologics, or small molecules, Tempo provides a fully validated MES system that's both powerful and easy to use. It streamlines your processes, ensures compliance, and adapts to your specific manufacturing needs. So get off of paper batch records and discover how Apprentice's Tempo Manufacturing Cloud can transform your operations by visiting us at apprentice.io. Attention industry professionals, revolutionize your manufacturing process with the Apprentice Tempo Manufacturing Cloud, a manufacturing execution system built to streamline your operations, boost efficiency, and ensure compliance all in one powerful platform. Experience the future of manufacturing with our free 30-day trial. Scan the QR code on your screen now to unlock a world of innovation. Don't just keep pace, set the tempo as an industry leader with Apprentice. That's all for Apprentice.io's Industry Insights. I'm Frank Maggiore. Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for notifications when new episodes drop. Please comment on if you have additional topics you would like for me to cover in this space, and we'll see you next week for more Industry Insights.